How we doing? You still awake out there? Good answer. I will warn you beforehand, I am underslept and overcaffeinated. So if this gets weird, send all hate mail to Leon. I hear he reads it and uses it as sustenance. See, I'm already started. So, as we discussed, with me is Kimberly Corban, who is currently with Town Hall as a media contributor. She also has her own little website that she and also is Antonia Okafor with Bearing Arms and student, if I'm not correct, sorry, Students for Concealed Carry. Two very lovely women who are making me very nervous. But we wanted to talk about how the left is coming in and attempting to undermine our Second Amendment rights, which they like to say, we don't want to take your guns, and then they praise Australia. And they're doing it very sneakily. If they can't do it outright, if they can't ban our guns outright, they try to do other things like ban magazine sizes, certain types of firearms, that kind of thing, and trying to get around. Now, I want to focus on that. I want to talk about that a little bit, but also I have the opportunity of being able to talk about this subject with these two ladies who are going to talk about it from the perspective of women and how the Second Amendment and women are best friends, or at least need to be. So let's go ahead and start off. Antonia, I want to start off with you. You wanted to cover, there's a stereotype around millennials and minorities, and you just kind of want to destroy that stereotype, to put it politely. So what do you think? You want to buck this stereotype? Go ahead and talk about how you want to do it, or you just go ahead and just fire away at it.
Yeah, well, I think most people in this room know that when you think of someone who's a typical gun owner, you don't really think of me. But, I've been writing for Bearing Arms for a few months now, and my focus has always been, and it's really easy because they just give me free material, really, in the media, of all these places saying that because I'm a black person, because I'm a woman, that I shouldn't be for the Second Amendment. And I actually did an NRA commercial called Freedom's Safest Place, where I talk about that, where I buck stereotypes and say, no, because I'm a black woman, I do think the Second Amendment is important. I do think self-defense is not only for me as a black woman or as a woman or as a person, it's a human right. And that's why I'm here, because this election, people are going to talk about it. They're going to say you're racist. They're going to say you're sexist because you support the Second Amendment. And I'm just here to say, well, please tell me those two things, because I think I have some things to tell you when it comes to that. So yeah, that's what I'm trying to do.
Awesome. Yeah, and I mean, I'm told you're a convert, as well as you, Kimberly. Both of you have had messaging thrown at you about what a feminist and a woman should look like. And as we heard Carly Fiorina say earlier, no, that's not what it looks like. Go ahead, because you wanted to destroy some stereotypes as well and kind of fight back against that narrative.
Gosh, yeah, I actually started with sex assault awareness and came to politics when my right to defend myself was under fire. Pun intended, that's how I prefer them. But really, I mean, this is something that I didn't know squat about when I became a victim of sex assault as a 20-year-old, just an hour north of here, actually. So I'm really happy that we're having this here in Colorado, and you guys all get to see my home state. But it wasn't until my rights are actually threatened that I feel, okay, maybe politics does have something to do with me, and it's not better to stick my head in the sand and just pretend it's not happening, because whether or not I take an interest in politics, politics is taking an interest in me. In 2008, I fell hook, line, and sinker for the messaging. I was technically independent, but Obama's social media game was far and away better than anything else that we had offered to us. And I heard words like hope and change, and I thought, this is somebody that's gonna go to bat for me as a woman, as a crime victim, all of these things that are really, really important to me just coming off the heels of a trial. And here we are 8 years later, and I've had to come to learn the hard way that he has legislated me into more likely being a victim than not. I've learned that I don't want the government to protect me. I want the government to get out of my way so I can protect myself.
And I think this is a very interesting topic to touch on because I'm noticing that on the left, especially when it comes to women, it's not protecting yourself. It is being a perpetual victim.
Yes.
That's what they're pushing as being a feminist. You are at the mercy of the world in every regard, be it men, corporations, capital, you name it.
Exactly.
And so I find it funny that the strong women are the ones who are not afraid to stand up and say, no, if you try anything with me, I'll shoot you with a smile on my face. And that's why I love to hear this I think this is a messaging that really needs to get out there. A woman, a feminist, by the definition that it was intended, not this third wave victimization, social justice stuff you see nowadays. That's not feminism. This is feminism right here.
I think we do a pretty good job collectively of pissing people off because we are not the victims that they so need us to be to push their legislation.
Yeah.
Yes.
We're survivors and we're able to stand up for ourselves. And the more we speak about this, the more people we have standing up just like us.
And like Kim, I was a Democrat. So I was 18, 2008, I was 18 in Atlanta. My family, they're still Democrats. I was a convert after realizing that I was about to graduate and the policies that I voted in by voting President Obama in were going to impact my generation as a millennial and my future kids' generation. And I realized that the fiscal side really was important to me. But then later on, last year, I'm from Texas, last year we passed Campus Carry, which is concealed carry on campus, and I became the Southwest Director for Students for Concealed Carry. And if you don't know about Campus Carry, it's basically this modern gun rights movement to say that just because, why is it I can go to a mall on a Saturday and a movie theater on a Friday and then go to church on Sunday and be able to conceal carry and protect myself in all those avenues. But once I walk onto a college campus, just like with Kimberly, when I walk into a college campus, that suddenly, arbitrarily, there's this line saying I can't protect myself. And I knew that was wrong. And I wanted to buck that stereotype of the people who were fighting for that. I'm fighting for that because it protects me. As a black woman, it protects me. As a blah, blah, it protects me because we're all Americans and we should be able to be protected from gun-free zones because gun-free zones do not work.
That's right. Gun-free zones are anything but gun-free zones.
Exactly.
And I think that I'm glad you touched on that. So Campus Carry is becoming a very big ordeal, especially nowadays. You're seeing a lot of pushback from the left. But as we've seen, and I think the last statistic I read, I'm not sure if it's changed, and if it has changed, it's gone up. But the last statistic I read said that 96% of mass shootings happen on gun-free zones. And these gun-free zones are often college campuses. These are kids dying at the hands of bad people who carried a gun where they weren't supposed to. I would love to hear more of your thoughts about Campus Carry and how important it is to protect yourself, and especially in schools.
Yeah, well, so Texas, like I said, we just passed Campus Carry last year, and very fortunate. Unfortunately, the side of that is that last minute they passed an amendment with part of that bill saying that every institution, every college campus be able to make sure they can show where they wanted gun-free zones to be on their campus. So of course, the ever conservative University of Texas at Austin, very conservative, right, have been pushing back. And so the last year, we've been literally pushing back against them and saying, no, you can't ban it from classrooms because universities are classrooms and offices. No, you can't have it in an office. You can't ban it from offices. You have to be 21 years of age and older to even have an LCC and have it on campus. So you're really inhibiting those who are going to be able to be impacted by that law by not being able to have professors have campus carry or not having faculty or staff members or grad students be able to have campus carry because they can't even go into their office. And so right now we're pushing against that. And people are always fascinated because it's Texas, right? Gun rights, that's where it's supposed to be. And we're the eighth state to have campus carry. We're not the first ones. And like I said, Colorado, Utah, Oregon has already had it. And so I talk to students all the time, students who, first of all, don't know about the actual law. They don't know that it's protecting them. And when they do, they get it. It's like this aha moment. Because in the end, it's a fundamental right. It doesn't matter if you're a Republican or you're a Democrat or if you're a Libertarian. In the end, I've talked to other black women who, most of them, the majority of them, are not gonna have my conservative values. But they come up to me and they tell me, I don't really get your politics, I don't like them. But I just like the fact that you're independent and can think for yourself, and that fundamentally that campus carry is not about arming those bigots, those dangerous bigots who want to harm me. It's about protecting and empowering those people to make sure that those people who want to harm me are not able to. And that's what it comes down to.
That's right.
I think part of too, when we talk about campuses, this brings it to a much broader audience. When we're saying Trojan horse and how they're messaging to women like we were, the venue for free speech should be on our universities and our campuses. And they tell us that there shouldn't be guns there because then you aren't protected to exercise your First Amendment and your right to free speech. What we've realized on our own is that by exercising the Second Amendment, we are protecting your right to free speech. You should feel more empowered. You should feel able to express your concerns freely, whether that's you carrying or the person next to you or somebody in that building. That's what protects our First Amendment, is the second. And it protects all of our constitutional rights. And without it, we are a people that are going to be ruled, not represented.
That's right. There's a phrase that I heard one time, and I thought it was so true. Without the Second Amendment, the rest of the Constitution is just a wish list.
That's exactly
And I think that's totally true. Here's something else I wanted to get to. And Kimberly, you are a mother. And I think one of the most important parts of the Second Amendment, when I think a lot of, the Second Amendment was intended to protect you, not just from deer, but government. But not just from government, your day-to-day life. And as a mother, the safety of your children, the safety and well-being of your children is top priority. So I want you to talk a little bit about being a mother who carries.
Right.
Because I know that there is a lot of stigma around that. How could you have a gun around your kid? Well, how could you not?
Exactly.
So go ahead and talk to the audience about that.
Becoming a mother made me take not just my personal right to self-defense seriously, but the fact that I now have 2 little babies that I have to protect, a 1 and now 3-year-old, who I want to grow up looking at me thinking, my mom takes care of herself and she takes care of us. And that's something I need to instill in them, is that yes, I am going to teach them and I am going to help them along the way, and I want them to be protected by me until such a time that they can protect themselves. Why is it the government wants to continue treating us like children? We don't need to be protected now. We understand how to do that ourselves, and if not, it's fine to offer more education and allow that to happen. But don't treat me like a child. I can take care of my own kids, my own home. Stay out of my way. Let me do that.
And do you plan on raising your children around firearms and teaching them from a young age how to use them and things like that?
Absolutely. And I'm not ever going to purport to be an expert in anything because, like everyone, I'm learning just as I go, too. I was talking to my friend Antonia, who's somewhere here in the audience, about her teenage kids, and I'm thinking, oh gosh, I'm so glad I'm not there yet. And there is a lot of learning that has to happen as a parent. There's a lot of learning that has to happen as an adult, for millennials, for Democrats, for Republicans, for anyone that is understanding politics. But it all comes back down to basic safety. And I'm learning, just like everyone else, how to best impress that upon my children. And it's something that I constantly have to keep up with, and it starts from a very, very young age.
Yeah, I agree. I think that education over fear-mongering.
Well, and I hate when we see these gun control or gun sense groups that are saying that they are for gun safety. Show me a pamphlet that they've put out that's about cleaning, storage, good ways to carry, maybe options for gun safes. I have not seen one of those.
No, they're actually releasing commercials where kids die.
Yeah, I saw that one. Was pretty darn
Alice in
disturbed. But where's
Wonderland.
the outrage from that?
Yeah,
Haven't
exactly.
seen it.
You know, the only death that I've actually seen I mean, it's all scare tactics is what
Yes.
it is. It's not education, it's just scare tactics, and I think that's something that we all need to realize what's happening out there. They're not trying to inform people about gun safety. Gun safety isn't what they want. All right, what they want is to scare you into figuring that maybe you don't want to be around around a gun because it could magically grow arms, legs, a mind of its own, and go off
Yeah.
in your face, I guess. I don't know.
And like people like my family, like I said, they're still Democrats. I mean, I'm not saying all Democrats obviously are anti-gun, but they're anti-gun. They're not familiar with it. And one of the proudest moments I had was, showing my mom how to protect the house with a shotgun. Because my first gun was not a handgun; it was a Remington Express 870. So I showed her how to, protect the house. And she didn't really even have any experience with it. But that was a great moment to say, "Hey, Mom, there are 3 other girls in the house. You're here. You're a single parent, and it's me. Somebody might want to come and harm us one day, and this is where the gun is, and this is how you use it." And it was one of probably the most proudest moments I had, other than like doing well in school, is being able to show that, because I knew I love this woman, and she protected me, and I want to be able to protect her. And that's what I love about writing about women and this new demographic that are becoming these gun owners, because it's a new avenue, but it's a great avenue. And I'm actually debuting this column piece called Black Armed and Conservative with Bearing Arms, and debuts today. But I just want to be a part of that generation, that voice of saying, yes, it's new for all of us, but here, let's talk about it. Let's encourage each other to train more about it, because in the end, we're going to be able to have children where we can pass on that new legacy towards them, and that's an empowering one.
Well, and it takes away some of the fear too, because how often are you going to see a female that's just, I think I want to learn more about guns, and is going to walk into a range or a store and ask questions? I encourage people to do that, even if you don't know anything about it. I've learned that the gun community is more than happy to answer questions, because there's nothing that we love more than safety and correct education about these issues, about firearms in general. And I think the more women see this become mainstream, and hey, I'm not actually alone, and it's not just this one stereotype that they love to put us in that box and villainize us. It's all of us, and if they see themselves in myself or Antonia, anybody, then maybe they're a little bit further making that step towards asking questions and educating themselves, instead of relying on slanted media.
Mm-hmm. And I think this is a common theme running throughout this entire panel. It doesn't matter who you are. I know that, since the ISIS terrorist attacks, and let's call them ISIS terrorist attacks, have been happening, more and more people have been going out and buying guns. Because every time one of them attacks us, the left attacks the Second Amendment for some reason. And I don't know how they figure that defending ourselves from terrorists can only happen if we give up our weapons, but that's what they do. But I know that during the Orlando shooting, after it happened, homosexuals in large number went out.
Pink pistols.
Yes.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
Groups.
Pick on someone your own caliber.
Exactly.
They went out and in droves. And I remember interviewing a range in Houston, the manager there, and said, I offered free classes. I'm glad he did not. And if there are any, trainers here or watching, he says, I challenge you to take up what he did. He offered free lessons to these people. He said, these are people who never thought that they would walk in there, who never thought that they would pick up a gun, who didn't think they were welcome in there. But they came in and they came out Second Amendment supporters. And that's something I think is very important. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what you do, what you believe. You have a right to defend yourself with firearms. And I'm loving the fact that we are seeing here, in fact, that it doesn't, true diversity is in the Second Amendment.
Yeah,
We're
I
seeing
agree.
people targeted, but at the end of the day, we're all losing fellow Americans
That's
in
right.
these mass shootings, and it needs to stop.
Absolutely.
And the best way that I see the left or gun control advocates trying to change that message is that it is far easier to pin the hatred in someone's heart on an inanimate object, instead of addressing mental health issues and things that we really need to attack in this country.
I want to take a minute to where can we find you and your work, and tell us more about where we can just learn about you and what you have to say.
So I just started at Town Hall. I'll have all of my different collections of writing, and a bunch of different places, but follow me on social media. I like to joke and say I do my own stunts, but really I am easy to contact there. Twitter is Kimberly_Corban, Corban, spelled a ton of different ways by everyone, but that's the real one. KimberlyCorban.com is my website if you want to reach out that way as well, and then I am also on Facebook at Kimberly Corban Survivor.
Awesome.
Yeah, and then you can follow me on Twitter, Antonia_Okafor, so Okafor. I also have a Facebook page called Black Armed and Conservative. But of course, if you want to follow Campus Carry, look at concealedcampus.org because, like I said, it's a movement, it's a modern day movement, and it's going to continue to go and to continue to carry.
And yet, with students for concealed carry, that's been going on for a little while now.
Yes, after the Virginia Tech shootings, it was a pro-campus carry, response
awesome.
to it. Yes.
So tell us a little bit more about that, because I know like I said, we're going back to the whole college thing.
Yeah.
How much support do you think, or how much support and traffic do you get from students concerned about that kind of thing after, like, say, shootings happen?
Yeah, well, that's the great thing. It's not just students, it's professors, it's faculty members, it's parents. As parents, I talk to Cam Edwards on Cam & Co. on the NRA News all the time, and I always talk about how parents, hey, listen up. This institution that you want to send your student to, send your child to, look at how they want to literally take away their rights. And maybe you need to do a second thought of going there. So we have over 50,000 of those people, professors, students, members of Students for Concealed Carry, because it's a nationwide movement. And it's something that's been going really quickly because I think people are finally getting it. Because why do we have this place where it's where people live and then they do everything? 90% of their day is on campus, but they're not protected most of the day. And I think people are waking up to that. And so it's a great movement. It's a grassroots student-led movement. I don't get paid. It's activism. But I do it because I'm passionate about it, and we do it because we're passionate about it, because we want to leave a legacy that one day my children will go to school and be able to protect themselves.
Awesome. From what I understand, we've got about 5 minutes, and for Q&A, does anybody have any questions?
Out of all the campuses where carry's allowed, I think Utah goes back to its founding in the 1800s. Has there ever been even an accidental discharge on campus, or do you know? I think the incidents are very limited.
Yes, so there have been 5 instances, and those instances were all because they were not following the law. They weren't supposed to be presenting it. They were literally showing it to their colleague or something like that, where they would have gotten a fine for that, and it would have been illegal. So those are the instances. And the thing is, the chancellors, the people who make up the systems at University of Texas, Texas A&M, et cetera, I testified in front of the Texas State Affairs Committee in January on my birthday. It was a great birthday. And I got to hear what they were saying, and they were literally saying, even those people who were very anti-campus carry, we talked to people in Colorado, we talked to people in Oregon, we just couldn't find anything. Because that's what happens. Just like with open carry in Texas, nothing. Campus carry just came to Texas August 1st. It was implemented. It started. Nothing. And that's what we continue to hear is nothing. It's crickets. So, yeah.
And I have probably a related question. I'm a grad student at Cornell University, so obviously very little chance of this being implemented there, but...
We're so sorry.
Yeah, we actually have the highest per capita rate of ISIS sympathizers in New York State.
Oh, great!
I did not know
And I
that.
think the
Wow.
second strictest gun control in the nation to go along with that. But
You need to move.
I'm wondering, will there be studies, or have there been studies showing lower rates of sexual assault on campuses where there's open carry? Because there is, even at Cornell, there's a big emphasis on reducing sexual assault. So they do martial arts training. Obviously, they aren't interested in Second Amendment type training, but I'm wondering if there will be or have been actual good studies that can demonstrate that we're seeing this reduction in women are safer because of this.
Due to just specifically concealed carry on campus, I don't know of any. when you talk sex assault on campus, we've seen a huge push recently with Title IX and a lot more university awareness. And I think that when it comes down to the root of the problem, we are seeing more people empowered to come forward, to report. So it's not that this hasn't been here, it has. I hate the statistic that says something along the lines of 1 in 4 or 1 in 5 women will be raped at some point while they are on campus or in college. That's over a lifetime. It fluctuates between 1 in 4 and 1 in 6, I believe, throughout the nation. That's a study that needs to be conducted. Who the heck are we going to get that wants to do that study and prove us, crazy gun nuts, right? Because we're not. This is something that we're looking at for an empowerment tool. And to have somebody conduct a study like that, I would be very happy to see.
And it's not the only tool. Like,
Right.
it's just one of them. It's just being
Right.
able to get to the, bring it to the table and say, this is also something that can empower women. And I think that's what's attractive about it.
The more women that get into concealed carry or any kind of self-defense, the higher the likelihood that when they are possibly looked at as a victim that they're carrying, that's going to lower the chances of victimization. Thanks for your question.
I think real fast, Leon has a question.
I have a question. I'm going to go to the microphone. Yep. This is the, that's right, boss's prerogative. All right, so the United States has the highest per capita gun ownership in the world by a pretty significant amount. We have about 85 guns for every 100 citizens. There's not, I don't think, it's been shown there's not a correlation between gun ownership and violent crime. In fact, some of the highest gun ownership countries in the world, like Sweden, is I think 4th or 5th, has almost no violent crime. Iceland, Sweden as well is in the top 5. Iceland, I think, is 13th, and they have literally almost no violent crime. How can we start talking about, if guns are not the cause of violent crime, start addressing what are the causes of the reasons that there are so much crime, and in fact gun-related crime in the country, besides the fact of just owning guns per se is the problem?
This is going to be a very loaded answer. We live in a society of entitlement, and I am here to tell you, you are not entitled to any one person's body, their property, or anything that they have worked to maintain. And the more we get away from that sense of entitlement and handouts, we are going to see a reduction in crime. But we are raising children, and we are seeing a whole class of people that want entitlements. You are not entitled to my body. I am entitled to protect it, and we have got to change that narrative.
Exactly. And it wasn't, it wasn't an accident that I had my transformation starting out with fiscal issues. I was going to say the same thing. Even in the Black community or minority community, I focus on the economic impact, this welfare state, basically, that has entrapped people in this cycle of poverty. And, we look at Chicago and these places that people, the left likes to talk about all the time when it comes to gun deaths and whatever, but they never look at the fact that these people don't even have food to eat, at the end of the day, or these people are looking for a way to better themselves and can't find it because they're entrenched in these left policies that keep them there. And so part of that, that's why I said Black armed and conservative, because I'm so passionate about bringing that conservative message of we need to reform. We need to have reform in many different ways, but particularly in economic arenas, because if we can get that part, then we can do a lot of other great things afterwards.
Ladies and gentlemen, round of applause for these ladies.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much.